Hey guys, it's Drew from UVA Productions, and today I'll be showing you how to get out of a bunch of new maps on Modern Warfare 2 using the new knife launching method. Alright, so before we get into things, I just wanted to go over the current state of affairs in terms of which maps you can get out of on Modern Warfare 2, and like which maps are now possible because of this new technique. So here we have a list of all of the maps on Modern Warfare 2 except for Vacant. I just thought it would look a lot nicer if this is a 5x5 and having an extra map kind of ruins that. But before the method of care package knife launching, we were only able to get out of 8 maps on this game. Most of the maps were like shotgun jumps, you were able to get out of them, and some of them required care package breaching, which is like a huge pain in the ass, but it's still only 8 maps out of the 26 maps in total. But now with this new method, we're able to get out of 8 new maps. Some of them, like Derail and Underpass, we were able to get out with elevators, but those are now patched. And then the rest of the maps, we were able to get out with only using hacks, such as Speed Hack. So now there's only 10 maps on this game left that nobody's gotten out of, unless they were using like a challenge lobby or something. We think a few of these you still might be able to care package breach out of, which we have to look into. But the rest, some of them like Rust and Terminal, you won't be able to do that on those maps. So in order to get out of those, it's going to require some sort of like teleporting glitch. And we have been looking for that. We hop on the game all the time and we're trying to look for that and get out of those maps finally. And we encourage everybody else to hop on Modern Warfare 2 and try to find that as well, because it would be absolutely insane if we could just finally get out of Rust or Terminal. Like, those are just 2 great maps that would be pretty amazing. But alright, so now that that's out of the way, we could start showing you some of the out-of-map spots. Alright, so Derail is one of the maps that you used to be able to elevate outside of, but now that's patched, so you can't do that anymore. So I guess getting out of this map again would technically be an after patch. But basically, you just want to come to this side of the map over here, and you just want to use this hill here as your ramp. And you're just going to place a care package on the road here and have your friend stand up by the out of map. And this should be a pretty easy one to get. I mean, the barrier is not really that high, so even if you get kind of a shitty launch, which happens sometimes, you should be able to still get outside the map pretty easily. But I'm not really going to show this out of map that much, just because you've all probably seen it a billion times. So we're just going to move on to the next map now. Alright, so Invasion is going to be a bit more interesting because previously you were only able to get outside of this map using both Speed Hack and shotgun jumps. This is one of those maps where all of the barriers are really high and there's a sky barrier, but there just happens to be a gap somewhere where you can get outside the map. But the major problem we had with this one, unlike Derail and Favela that you've seen so far, we couldn't find any spot to like launch off of that was giving us enough height in the correct direction and in the right spot in the map. So we took an idea found by Jetz, who is a member of the trick shotting community in Modern Warfare 2, and we tried to apply it to this glitch, and it actually works really well. So you don't really even need a sloped surface anywhere in the map, you could just use a third person. But that is the downside, essentially. Like, you need 3 people to get outside of the map. But I think it's totally worth it, considering we were never able to get outside of Invasion before without hacks. But yeah, so to get outside this map, you're going to want 3 people, and then you're going to want the person in the middle to be crouching, and you want to put a care package right by this barrier over here. And then you just want to bounce off the person's head when you hit the lunge, and you want to aim right for this building, or maybe slightly to the left of it so that you hit the barrier and then land on top of the building like I did. And for whatever reason, this is just the one spot on the map where you can just go up on top of this building and there's a gap right here and you could just drop down outside of the map. Now, I think we have uploaded this out of map in the past when we were using Speed Hack and shotgun jumps to get outside of it, but I will just show a little bit of like sped up footage just so if you don't have 3 people to do this glitch, you could just see some of the out of map. But we do have 6 more maps to get through, and we're almost 5 minutes into this video, so I would like to go to the next map if that's okay with you. Alright, so Underpass is going to be similar to Derail in that it's going to be an after patch because technically you used to be able to get outside of the map with a jump elevator, or I think there was also a crouch elevator you could do to get out of it as well. But now those are patched, so there's currently no way to get outside the map besides knife lunging. But this is another map that we were able to find a spot in where you don't need a third person to bounce off their head. So you just gotta come over to this part of the map where there's this little pallet that's angled like almost perfectly for a knife lunge. And you just want someone on the other team to stand over on this barricade over here, and you just gotta throw a care package down and just go right off the pallet, and you should get up on the barrier. Now the barriers are like a little high on this map, so you don't need an absolutely massive lunge, but you do need something more than a medium lunge, or else you're not gonna get the height. And you do need the distance as well to get over to the building. But the cool thing about this map is that if you land up on the barrier, you can pretty much walk around the entire barrier for like the whole map, and you can get all the way to the other side. And you can even land down on the bridge both inside the map and outside the map. And there's like a whole like water area where there's like a dock and stuff. So it's kind of a cool map to explore outside of, but it's not that large either. The coolest part of the Ada map is definitely being like up on top of the barriers and stuff. But yeah. But this is another map that's been uploaded a bunch of times, so we're just going to move on to the next one now. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the DLC maps. If you were playing Modern Warfare 2 back in the day, you'll remember that they patched elevators like pretty much right before the DLC came out, or I think the patch where the first DLC came out is when they patched elevators. So you weren't able to elevate out of any of the DLC maps. So basically you just couldn't get out of most of them, besides I think Bailout is the only one you can get out of because you could just like shotgun jump outside and the barriers are really short. But maps like Crash and Strike have really high barriers on them. There was no way to get out of the maps unless you had a way to get a lot of height like you do here. But yeah, so for this one, you just want to come to the middle of the map here, and you just want the other player to put a care package right in front of the helicopter, and then they're going to go up on top of the back part of the helicopter, and when you do the lunge, you just want to stand on top of the care package so you can get a little bit more height and see them. And we're just going to go straight off the window of the helicopter, and if you get the lunge correctly, you should go flying miles up in the air, and you should land up on the top of the barrier over here. Now for this one, I would say that you definitely need to get a really good lunge, or else you're not going to make the height. And you kind of also need to get lucky if you want to land on top of the barrier like this. I'm sure you could probably still get outside of the map if you went flying in some random direction and went over the barrier, but it is always cooler to land up on top of the barriers, and that way you can put your tack up here and you can decide to drop down wherever you want, and you can walk along the barriers and stuff, and that's always pretty cool. This out of map is definitely way better than Underpass. I mean, out of Underpass is just like mostly fake ground, but I think mostly this is real. I don't think there's a lot of fake ground outside of this map. I think there might be like a lot of fake buildings, but there's a lot of stuff to explore. And you can even, I believe you can drop down underneath the map and get below the death barrier. So that's another added thing you can do, which is pretty awesome. But now we're going to move on to the next map, which I think is one of the coolest out of all of them, because we're going to get up on top of the sky barrier. So I'll see you there. Okay, so Overgrown is going to be similar to Invasion in that we're going to be knife lunging off of somebody in the middle, in between you and the person that you're knife lunging towards. And this map is also boxed in like Invasion is, but there just happens to be a gap in the sky barrier right above where we're standing on this building. So we're going to use that to get outside of the map and on top of the sky barrier as well. But yeah, so basically you just want the same setup as always, like you're going to throw a care package down and you want somebody to stand over on one side, and then you want somebody to stand in between you and them, and then you're just going to jump on top of the care package this time, and you're going to knife at the person, and hopefully when you bounce off of the person in the middle's head, you'll go straight up and you'll go right through the gap in the sky barrier and you'll land up there. Fortunately, this map, the sky barrier isn't that high, so you really don't need a mega launch to get outside of the map. You just need a launch that's like at least, I would say, medium height, and you should be able to do it. And once you're up on the sky barrier, you don't really have to worry about falling back in the map or outside the map. It kind of goes, it follows like the map boundaries. You just don't want to go by where we were doing that glitch, or in the alley, sort of, not alley, but like the river that's next to it. I think the gap also extends over there, so just don't go over there and you should be good. I think this one is really cool because it's one of the few sky barriers that you could actually get on top of in this game. And you can just like run around up here and everybody in the map can see you like running up here. I just think it's really cool. And this isn't really like the biggest out of map, but it's definitely, it has more real ground than like Underpass or something. But I think the sky barrier definitely makes up for any sort of like fake ground that is outside of this map. But alright, so I think I've shown enough footage of this one, so we'll move on to the next map now. Alright, so Fuel is a map that we were trying for a really long time to find a spot that we could lunge off of, like a slope or something, but we just couldn't find one that was near a barrier that was low enough to get us outside the map. The barriers on this map are actually like extremely tall. Like they're not as tall as like Subbase or something, but it's even with knife launching, you just really can't even get on top of the highest barriers on this map. It's just not possible. So we had to go for the one barrier that we knew was like really short compared to the rest. So that made us have to use the 3-person head bounce method. But I think it ended up working out well because as soon as we tried this, we got this within like maybe 20 minutes or so. Like it's not really that difficult to use a 3rd person. It's just that it requires another person to do. But you would think with all like the sloped rocks on this map on the other side that there would be a rock that you can just like slide off of, like to use as a ramp for the launch. But just all of the rocks just weren't working well at all, and like the care packages weren't going in the right spot, and like it was just too much of a pain in the ass. So I think this is probably the easiest way you're going to be able to get outside the map. But yeah, so here the barrier you're going for is the one that's on the right. You don't want to go for the barrier that's straight in front of you because first of all, it's too tall to get on top of, and second of all, I believe if you were to go over it, you could fall back inside the map. So you want to go for the barrier that's directly to the right, and then even if you don't land on that, you'll still land outside of the map though. But yeah, I would say this out of map is definitely one of the better ones. I mean, it is just like kind of a desert with like some mountains and stuff, but it's just like there's so much real ground outside of this map. You do have to be careful though, because there's some areas where if you go too low, you'll hit the death barrier that's under the map. So you kind of want to stay like either level with the map or go upwards. Like you just don't want to go down. But yeah, I was saying when we got outside of this map that it was kind of like a Borderlands 2 out of map, just because how like massive it is. Like all of this ground is just real, and there's like these mountains you can climb, and like there's like these slopes you can fall down and stuff and slide down. It's a pretty good out of map, I would say. And I think it just makes it even cooler that no one's ever gotten outside of this map without hacks before. But alright, so now we're over 13 minutes into this video, and we still got 2 maps left, so let's go. Alright, so Strike is another map that we were looking for a ramping spot for a while, but we just couldn't find one. So we decided to use the head bouncing method up at the top of the map over here. When we were first looking for a spot, we thought we knew this one area that had like a smaller barrier that we could go over, but it turns out that it's higher than we thought it was, or maybe we just didn't get the height. So we decided to do it here instead. But you're just going to want to set this up as always. You're going to want to come over here to this orange box, or on top of these boxes or whatever, and you're just going to want to throw a care package here, have somebody in the middle crouching, and then have the other person go over here. Now, all of the barriers over here on this side of the map are pretty much the same height. Like, you can do a lot of barrier walking to go around to other buildings and stuff. So, as long as you just land on this building over here, you should be fine. But if you end up going to the right or something, you'll still land outside the map. It's not the biggest deal in the world. You just won't be able to barrier walk over to the other buildings. In terms of the quality of this out of map, I would say that it's a pretty large out of map. It's very flat and it goes out really far, but pretty much all of the buildings I think are fake, and it's not very interesting because there's a lot of repeating buildings, so it's not really like that different outside the map. Like once you've seen one area outside the map, you've pretty much seen it all already. But it is still pretty cool to run down the streets, and you can go all the way to the edge of the map and you can fall off and land underneath the map as well. So that's pretty cool. Alright, we got one more map to go, and it's going to be a pretty short one, so let's go. Alright, so Trailer Park is probably one of the easiest maps to do this glitch on. We're going to use another ramp in the map. It's going to be off of this, like, propeller blade thing. And it's just going to be the same process as always, so you're just going to want to get a care package next to the propeller blade, and you're just going to want to ramp off of it with the knife launch, and you should be able to get outside the map. I think this out of map is pretty small, but I wasn't able to tell really because as soon as I got out, I was killed by Sono, as you'll see here in a minute. But I do get it really fast here, so I go right over the barrier and I land right outside the map. And I think as long as you stay near the map, you should be fine, like you should have real ground. But I know if you go a little bit far away, you will fall under the map and die. And as you can see, I was killed by Sono, so I didn't get any more footage of the out of map, and that's the video. If you've watched it all the way through, congratulations. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. This has been Drew from UVA Productions, and I'll see you guys next time.